That's interesting, Kirby. So are you trying to call Dan Lanning, the head coach for Oregon, a liar? Can y'all believe it? We are 1 day away. 1 freaking day away from college football returning. Look, I get it. I already know somebody's running to the comments right now. Well, technically, Matt, it started last week. No. I'm not talking about those crappy week 0 games. We can't count those. However, I will admit I did enjoy the Northwestern and Nebraska game. Still, Northwestern, Nebraska, not really good teams. I'm excited for that game tomorrow night. Pittsburgh and West Virginia. That's going to be a good one. We're going to talk a little bit about that Pittsburgh and West Virginia game, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. But the main topic of tonight's video is old Kirby Smart. Good old Kirby. Now, we all know, or you should know, Oregon and Georgia, they're playing on Saturday, and it's one of the biggest matchups of the weekend. You got Georgia, who's ranked 3rd, and you also got Oregon, who's ranked 11th. I think it's going to be an exciting matchup. Going into this game, I think everybody, including myself, is looking forward to these 2 things. Number 1, Bo Nix, and number 2, how much is Georgia going to fall off? We all know Kirby Smart knows this. Everybody with a functional brain knows this. Georgia's defense isn't going to be as good as last year's. It's just not physically possible. They had, what was it, 5 first-rounders selected? Georgia's going to be good, and I think they're going to be really good and maybe even better than what some people think, but the real question is, are they going to be great? Are they going to be elite? We'll have to wait and see, but I'll tell you right now, I would not be underrating Georgia because they're just a team you don't want to mess around with. They're now a team that has that winning DNA. They've been to all the big-time games, and they've won them now. I can't speak for you, but at least for me, that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most. Bo Nix versus that Georgia defense. Whoa. Hold on. Speaking of Oregon and Bo Nix, Kirby Smart just called out Oregon. Yeah, that's right. You heard me correctly. I think it's safe to say things are heating up. No intro, no none of that. We're jumping straight into it. If you like college football videos, it's simple. Consider joining, subscribing to the channel. We're on the road to 1 million, and we can't get there without your help. First things first, and trust me, I want to get into the Georgia and Oregon and Kirby Smart drama, but we got to go over this first. The NCAA just announced a new rule change to roughing the passer. I'm not too sure as to why nobody else is talking about this, but it is really strange. I'm going to show you right here what it says word for word, and this is coming from the NCAA rulebook. It states you cannot hit a defenseless player. We all knew that, but here's the rule change. This is an example of what they're labeling as the new quote-unquote defenseless player. A player in the act of or just throwing a pass. This includes a player in the passing posture with a focus downfield. I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat as me. When I first read that, I was like, okay, so basically to sum it up, you can't even sack the quarterback anymore? It says it right here. It's in front of you. I'm showing it. If a player is in the quote-unquote throwing motion, you can't tackle him. If you do tackling, it's going to be a penalty for roughing the passer, and that's apparently the new rules. I'm confused about this. It doesn't make sense to me, and honestly, I thought the game was already too soft as it is, and now it's getting even softer, and it's an embarrassment. As fans, we know this, and I think the football players themselves know this. Playing football in general, it's a risk. It's a physical sport. It's not for everybody, so we need to quit trying to make it as safe as possible and just go out there and play. It's grown men going out there trying to literally tackle other grown men, and injuries are going to be a part of the game. It happens. Some injuries are going to be worse than others, and some are going to be life-threatening. It happens, and I hate to say it, but that's the reality. You can put in all these rules to try to make the game safer, but at the end of the day, I just think it's all too much. I don't want to dive too deep into detail on this, but me personally, I think the targeting rule, it was a little too much, and sometimes we see players thrown out for something that I don't think is a big deal. Yes, some targeting is worse than others, but you'll see examples where a guy barely hits a face mask and they throw him out of the game. If they were to change any rule, I wish they would change the targeting rule to it's no longer players ejected, it's just a 15-yard penalty. Or at least give them one more. If they get 2 targeting penalties in one game, yeah, then eject them. But 1, I don't think it's fair. I am pretty curious. A lot of people aren't too thrilled about this. I'm not happy about it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Before we move on, I do want to say this. I'm going to be livid and come out of my seat if I see a quarterback throwing a football, then he gets tackled and the ref throws a flag. If a quarterback's in the throwing motion, he's liable to get sacked. I don't care about player safety, none of that. No, this is football, man. All right, let's get a move on before I get worked up about that situation. I think it's nonsense. Moving on to our second topic, which is West Virginia and Pittsburgh. They play tomorrow night. West Virginia, they're unranked. They got the new transfer quarterback. What's his name? Oh, yeah, JT Daniels. He transferred from Georgia. Pittsburgh's ranked 17th, and they also got a new transfer quarterback, Keaton Slovis. This isn't one of your Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, or what's another rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas type of matchup, but for that area, it's a pretty big deal. Correct me down below if I'm wrong, but I believe they like to call this the backyard brawl. It's going to be cool to watch regardless. Pittsburgh should win this game, but we'll have to wait and see. The only reason I'm talking about this is because a video clip leaked earlier today of what Keaton Slovis said at a pep rally, I think it was, and yeah, Matt wrote a clip.
And I got one more thing to say. West Virginia. And I got one more thing to say. West Virginia.
Okay, do we have any West Virginia fans in here? Let me know how y'all feel about that. If you didn't catch what he said F West Virginia. I don't have too much to say about the game. I just thought I'd show you that clip because anytime we see someone being cocky before a game or doing anything like this, we normally see the football gods humble him. Will the football gods humble him? I guess we'll find out about this time tomorrow night. Moving on to our main topic, the main encore, the main reason you clicked onto the video, Georgia and Kirby Smart, and also Oregon. I'm not gonna hype this up. We all know one of the best matchups this weekend, it's Oregon and Georgia. It's been getting hyped up since last year. You got Bo Nix, the ex-Auburn quarterback who is transferred from Auburn to Oregon, and he's gonna play Georgia, which he's done already like 2 or 3 times by now. Georgia's coming off their first championship in a very long time. Once again, congratulations to them, and they're on their high horse. Rightfully so. If you're a fan of Georgia, a player for Georgia, or anyone associated with them, you should be on your high horse. You deserve it to be. You earned it. You're the defending national championship. You got to have some ego and pride about yourself. You're the top dog. It's no longer that underdog mentality. People are coming from you. You're no longer hunting. You're being hunted. A wise man once said, well, actually, a wise man didn't say this. I just thought it sounded cool. It's common knowledge. It's harder to stay at the top than get to the top. Getting to the top is no easy achievement alone, and 99% of people in life, they won't even make it there. But to solidify your greatness so people can't say it was a one and done and it was a fluke and all this and all that, you got to remain there. And that's one of the hardest things to do in sports, whether it's the NFL, college level, NBA, or anything, is to stay at the top. There's a reason you don't see many case and scenarios where teams go back-to-back or even back-to-back-to-back. It's hard to go back-to-back, and I'm talking about in any sport at any level, whether it's a high school sport, college sport, or a professional sport. We all know who Georgia's quarterback's going to be. I'm not even going to spend any time talking about him. It's going to be Stetson DoorDash Bennett. The big question mark right now is who's going to be the starting quarterback for Oregon. Oregon's new head coach, ironically enough, was Georgia's previous defensive coordinator, Dan Lanning. He's not announcing a starting quarterback. And more than likely, you won't see a starting quarterback announced until kickoff. Kirby Smart recently was asked about Oregon's quarterback situation, and here's what he had to say about it. I can't even believe he said this, but he stated, that really doesn't impact anything for us. I know who the quarterback is going to be. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried a lot more about how our guys are going to play and what our guys are going to do and how our guys execute. Before we go any farther, we're not going to let that slide. He said, I already know who the quarterback is. That's interesting, Kirby. So are you trying to call Dan Lanning, the head coach for Oregon, a liar? I mean, if Dan Lanning says he doesn't know who the starting quarterback's going to be, how do you know who it's going to be? You don't got to be a rocket scientist to figure out who Kirby Smart is anticipating the quote-unquote starter is going to be, and that's Bo Nix. I wish I could sit up here and say Kirby's a genius for thinking that, but I've stated that ever since he left Auburn and went to Oregon. I said he was going to start from the jump. Do you really think Bo Nix is going to go all the way from Auburn, Alabama to Oregon to not start? Come on, man. Now, it's common sense. These coaches, they promise these guys are starting jobs. It's the same thing with Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers. There was no competition there. They were the starter as soon as they announced they was going there. Kirby Smart also added this, and I think he's 100% right. Matchups are easier to find when you know the team inside and out, like an SEC team we play every year. It's pretty easy to try to figure out where your matchups are. It's probably a little tougher in this situation of not knowing your opponent, and even the tape you have of the opponent may not be exactly what they're doing. So that creates an interesting dynamic, but it's not for our players to concern themselves with. Kirby's 100% right on that. For example, last year at Alabama, the second time you play them, it's a little easier to game plan. You know what they got, you know the weaknesses, and you know the strengths. On the flip side, and we'll use this game as an example, you're playing an out-of-conference team, and it's the first game of the year. You kind of know what they got, but you don't know what their weaknesses are. You don't know their strengths. And in reality, neither does Oregon. Yeah, you can anticipate you're going to have good quarterback play in your O-line's going to be good, but you don't know till the season starts, and it's the same thing for Georgia. I stumbled across another interesting stat line, and it's not good for Bo Nix fans. In 3 career games against Georgia, Bo Nix is 72 for 128 with 639 passing yards, and he has 34 carries for 34 yards. If you can't do that math, it means he has completed about 56% of his passes, which isn't good. It is key to throw in there, Auburn's offensive line was terrible, and Georgia was pretty good in the past in defense. Call me crazy, but I'm getting that weird feeling and vibe that Bo Nix is going to have a great night. I don't know what it is. There's something about Bo Nix, you cannot count him out. As an Alabama fan myself, he was always a guy I hated playing against, not because he was the best. He's just a guy that's going to give it 100%, and he's going to make crazy plays happen. Bo Nix isn't a quarterback I would want to play against and even scheme against. He's kind of like an off-brand version of Johnny Manziel. And the scariest part about Bo's game is if he has great protection and he has a good O-line, shoot, man, he could go 26 for 30 and throw for 350 yards, no problem. I've seen him do it at Auburn. You would see these times where he would have great games and then the week after it'd be terrible. Can he do that against Georgia? We'll have to wait and see. I think it's safe to say, though, he will be the starting quarterback, and if Oregon wants to have a fighting chance, he's going to have to go off and play a almost perfect game. I don't want to say Bo's got to play a perfect game, but he's got to be close. Let me know what y'all think about Kirby Smart calling out Oregon and Dan Lanning on their BS saying they don't know who the starter is, because apparently Kirby knows. I'm excited for tomorrow's games. Let me know your thoughts down below, but roll to 1 million!